Good morning, everyone. Kris here with Inspired Energy. Joining me this morning, Hartwell. Good morning, Hartwell.
And good morning, Kris. Good morning, everyone.
Yes, it looks like winter is coming. We have some chill in the air this morning, and the windows are starting to get frosty. So it's that time.
Yeah, it is.
So this morning, Hartwell decided to dive into one of my favorite subjects, and that is the one of the children. So we are
You probably
going,
think, why didn't I do this sooner?
yeah. Um, we're talking about what kind of guidance does human design offer in regards to raising our children? Can you give us some insight on that, Hartwell?
Absolutely. Well, of course, everything starts with strategy and authority. But the very beginning is to approach this question from a discussion of type,
Hmm.
because in a broad general sense, that's where we want to start.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's start with the manifestors then. So, how do we raise a manifestor child?
All right. Well, first of all, remember that the manifestors are here to be the initiators. And so they are innately wilder, freer, and more self directed than the other types. That's their job. And so um, they're repulsive. There's a kind of repulsiveness about their aura we talk about. And that may bring to a parent that sense of the desire to control them comes up quite quickly with a manifestor child. Partly because the parent is afraid that the kid will get itself into danger. Okay. But what you got to remember is that they're energetically designed to survive challenges and be self directed.
I find this actually hilarious because my youngest son is a manifester, and
Uh huh.
I used to say if he survives till 18, it'll be a miracle because that's
Mm,
how he was, and he was very frustrating, and he was a challenge, and he was the daredevil, and he was always doing things, and so I relate to this very much about trying to control him as well because he always seemed to be doing things that were so dangerous. So yeah.
right. In your mind, anyway.
Yeah, in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you see, it would be very easy for a parent to create in the child the fear that they won't be able to do what they want to do,
Hmm.
or that they're going to be punished for being too powerful, because the child is going to sense that there's something different going on, right? You
Hmm.
know, um, to be a manifester, it's a powerful design, and that ability to initiate is something that is very obvious.
Hmm.
So, right from the start, we want to teach them how to inform, to kind of inform people of what they're going to do or what they want to do, because that's the basic strategy for a manifestor that, in a sense, releases or lessens resistance to the world.
Hmm.
And, give them the ability to make their own decisions. Um, don't end up in a sort of deadlocked power struggle energy,
Hmm. Right.
so there's got to be a lot of negotiation in a sense with a manifester, in a sense that you want them to have, you don't want to do a lot of do what I say because I'm the parent thing. You want to find a different way to approach it.
Well, I like the way that you put it is like a win-win perspective so that the parent feels comfortable, but yet the child is still evolving the way that they're meant to evolve, right? So
Hmm.
I really like the way that you put that part. Um, so, is there anything else that you wanted to say about manifestors, or should we move on to generators?
Not at the moment. Not at the
Okay,
moment.
so let's move on to those active little generators, the little motors of the world.
Yes. Well, they have lots of energy. And it's really important for generators to exhaust themselves before they go to bed. That's one of the key things. So it may not be convenient for you as a parent, but they need to be physically exhausted. In
Mhm.
this day and age of computer games, I don't know that that would be exhausting enough for them physically.
Yeah, and
But
television and school.
yeah,
They're sitting all the
are
time.
they going to get enough exercise? Because
Mhm.
if they don't get enough exercise, they're not going to sleep as well.
Mhm.
And if they don't sleep as well, they may end up becoming, having long-term sleep deprivation. And some of the effects of that long-term sleep deprivation can mimic ADD,
Mhm.
so um, that's one of the things you really want to pay attention to is
Mhm.
uh, outdoor time, playtime, physically active time.
Mhm.
Um,
Putting them in sports or in a gym or like something
yeah,
for them to exhaust that energy.
have the trampoline in the backyard, have the,
Mhm.
the dance classes,
Mhm.
yeah. The other important thing is to encourage them to make their sacral sounds, their ahas and ahs. And,
I'm
you
laughing
know,
because the whole time I'm going, so everybody can guess that I'm a generator.
right.
Yeah.
And, make them familiar with yes or no questions because when the generators are asked yes no questions, then that helps them listen to their body
Hmm.
because your body's going to have a response.
So they process through their body a lot, like their gut feelings and things like that is what they need to listen to.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes. So I mean, not every remember generators are about responding to the environment, but
Hmm.
not everything that they're going to be responding to is like a yes or no question, obviously.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if you get drawn to something, when you're out and about in the environment, if you get drawn to something, your gut is going to tell you whether it feels right to you or not.
Hmm.
And in those cases, there might not be any obvious stimulus except you've been drawn to something. So that's the part of following their gut that they need to be encouraged to do.
Yeah. So pay attention to what your child is drawn to and what they feel an interest in.
Yes.
Yeah. Hmm.
And encourage them to, trust in that.
Hmm.
The other important thing is it's not always easy to differentiate between initiating and responding. So
Hmm.
that is something that needs to enter into the conversation in their life
Hmm.
if they're going to live true to themselves.
So how would you
Um,
define that to help parents out there? So how would they distinguish between initiating and responding?
um, Nothing is coming to me at this exact moment, but it's like initiating is getting an idea in your head that you want to make something happen, and
Right.
then trying to do it.
Hmm.
But responding can be something quite subtle from your gut, like, oh, I'm interested in that.
Hmm.
See, to somebody else, they might not know of the response that the child has had. Oh, that's
Hmm.
intriguing. I want to do that. So there
Right.
might be on an underneath level, there might be, in a sense, a response.
Hmm.
But on the surface of things, it might look like an initiation. So they need to be aware of that for themselves.
Right. Okay. So let's combine the two. Oreo's photobombing us. Um,
Yeah.
so let's combine the two. What's a manifesting generators? What kind of strategy do we apply to them, and what things do we look for in that child?
Well, in our conversations up till now, I haven't really been talking about the manifesting generator as separate
Hmm.
from the generators.
Right.
But in my source material this morning that I was prepping for, it was bringing some of those differences to light.
Hmm.
So the difference between a generator obviously has sacral definition, the primary motor, but in addition, in a manifesting generator, one of the motors is connected directly to throat. This gives a more energy in some ways. So they're the speedy creators of the world. They're always on the go. They need lots of activity, physical engagement, freedom to start things, to experiment with them, to quit if it doesn't work. They
Mm-hmm.
need that kind of permission because the manifesting generators are sort of the natural multitaskers of the world. They will often do more than one thing at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and that's healthy for them. But parents might end up getting worried that they don't pay enough attention to the detail.
Right.
Um, and they may not initially, but they're designed for that. They're designed often to come back after and in a sense cover missed steps.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing to do is to point it out to them without judgment and have that become rolled into their process, you know, um, as they go.
Yeah. So they always cycle back, anyways.
They do cycle back, yes. So they need to do a lot of things to stay healthy. They need to
Mm-hmm.
stay engaged. They need to be busy doing their multiple things. This might be difficult for the parent to manage, because they have this energy and this busyness, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and this is where we talk about, it takes a community to raise a child. The
Right.
parents may need help,
Mm-hmm.
but when they have these, manifesting generator kids might be prone to kind of a meltdown effect.
Like temper
A
tantrum,
combination,
kind of.
yeah, a combination of anger and frustration.
Mm-hmm.
So, because there can be this intensity when they're trying to do something and trying to make something happen, and then
Right.
they get frustrated. So
Mm-hmm.
they the anger, of course, comes from the not self
Mm-hmm.
theme of the manifestor, and the
Right.
frustration comes from the not self theme of the generator. So sometimes you might see a combination in them, and they don't like to be thwarted, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So they have to learn to deal with their frustration when things don't go smoothly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a coaching thing.
Yeah, I had a manifestor and a manifesting generator, so I can relate to both of those. So
Mm,
yeah, the whole intensity of the anger and frustration with the child, and I think that it would have been really helpful to learn these things about the child instead of just saying, oh, that's their personality, because you tended, before you knew that these things existed, that, oh, that's just a child's personality and there's nothing they can do about it. But really there are, if they are following their strategy and authority, that you can actually handle a lot of these situations a lot better. So
mm.
it's important to know that.
And was the manifesting generator more amped up?
Oh yeah, like, and when he would get frustrated because you couldn't understand him, he'd bang his head against the wall, and like he would do all
Mm,
kinds of things, right? So it was,
wow.
yeah, it was quite challenging. Yeah. So let's move on to projectors. We'll try to stay in time here. We've just got two more to cover. We might go a little over today, so hopefully the subject is intriguing enough for you to stick in. So the projector child, what do we need to know about the projector?
Fundamentally, what you need to know is that kid is going to be intelligent, observant, and they really want the greatest gift you can give to them is to recognize them. That is, value their contribution to things. A projector child not getting enough recognition might seem attention seeking. So there can be these irritating attention seeking behaviors. So the key is to, um, because they love to share their ideas, listen to them, acknowledge their ideas. Um, the best relationship with a parent would come from a parent who asks them for their ideas and stories and insights before they even offer them.
Mhm.
So a
So
parent
invite them
says,
in.
invite them in. Yeah, kind of like, what do you think about that? And it's like,
Hmm.
you always have something interesting to say, and just be interested in what they're going to say. And you find that if you do that, you will in fact realize, oh my God, this kid does have really cool and interesting things to say. And
Hmm.
so it's not a hardship.
Hmm.
It's just, be proactive in that and invite them to share their ideas. And then um, their ability to restrain themselves from seeking attention when it's not appropriate will be lessened. They won't have the pressure to get the recognition because they're already getting it, you
Mhm.
know, enough as they go along.
Mhm.
So become the person who realizes that projectors can be, amongst the best advisors in the world. And your kid, even though they're small, is going to have some really intriguing and cool stuff to offer you. Um, and that will change the dynamic when they know that you appreciate what they have to say. That'll really change the dynamic.
Right.
And they'll be better able to be quiet because they'll have some recognition ongoingly.
Mhm.
The other thing to do is to facilitate opportunities for them.
Mhm.
They need help to help. They need help from others to help them gain opportunities and access to opportunities and energy. So
Yeah.
they're not lazy or weak. Don't put that label on them, but that is the label that sometimes gets put on them. They
Mhm.
don't necessarily they aren't self-initiating often. They simply need other people to help them get them started on things.
Yeah. Get started or invite them into things or, yeah. Okay. So
So,
the
open the door for them,
mhm.
facilitate opportunities. Yeah.
Okay. So our last child to look at, which is the rarest of all, the reflector. So what do we do with these reflector children and how do we recognize them?
Well, really, remember that visually a reflector child has nothing defined in their chart. They have zero
Mhm.
centers defined.
So they're
All of
affected
it,
by everybody.
they are,
Mhm.
yes, they are a mirror for everyone. So
Mhm.
remember, the openness of a reflector is in every center, but that doesn't mean that make them more vulnerable because built
Mhm.
into them being reflectors is a kind of a resilience.
Mhm.
So in some ways they take on less than you would expect them to,
Okay.
given that everything is open. But they are very challenged by transitions and they need consistency. So it might really throw them off. Um, they may sometimes seem very clingy because they need consistency. But one of the keys, remember that Open G Center is very sensitive to environments.
Mhm.
So feeling good is an authority for them. If they feel good in an environment, something is going right.
Mm.
So you want to notice how are they feeling in different environments.
Mhm.
That will be a key, and you might have to, in a sense, help them explore different environments before you find out, okay, this is what works for my kid.
Mhm. Yeah, so you don't want to change this kid's school often or change his groups often or things like that. That they're going to really react to that. Is that what you're saying? Because they're so open.
Well, I mean, we're kind of saying opposing things, aren't we?
Hmm.
We're saying on the one hand they like consistency, but on the other hand you have to help them explore until they find what the best environment is for them.
Hmm.
So somehow you have to kind of help them with both.
Hmm.
Also, remember that a reflector child is a reflection of their environment.
Hmm.
If they're not feeling good, it's because of something usually that they're picking up from the environment. So, for instance, if they come back from school and they're not doing well, it might indeed be that they have um, become accustomed to a group of friends or a peer group that isn't good for them.
Hmm.
And so then you have to ask, is it, do I need to help them find different friends? Will that make a difference? So it sounds like there could be quite a need to experiment and be aware of of what happens with that
Yeah.
sensitivity.
Hmm.
Um, Also, give them it's good for them to maybe read a book in bed or kind of lounge in bed a bit before lights out, just so that they
Mhm.
have that time by themselves to release and discharge all the energetic things they picked up over the course of the day.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's good for most children, but especially for this group, it sounds like.
Well, mostly reflectors and projectors need that
Mhm. Yeah,
that sort of alone time or downtime before bed.
yeah. I always found that was the best thing was after they've done whatever is to give them a book or whatever, and then they would just keep reading. But it's, so
Yeah,
what
if it
else?
was me, I would be up till 3 in the morning if you did that.
Exactly. So what else do you feel is relevant to parents who want to respect their children and facilitate their happiness and fulfillment?
Well, this is a beginning conversation, of
Mhm.
course. I think knowing the type of your child is a huge a huge step up, for
Mhm.
helping you. But of course, beyond that, I think it would be useful to have a conversation around authorities, inner authorities.
Mhm.
Because if you know your child's inner authority, there, that's going to be helpful too, especially so that you don't um, end up giving them messages that are not appropriate for their inner authority if you have a
Right.
different one.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
exactly.
I mean, that might be a topic for another conversation.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
but yeah, that's the other thing that I would probably go to.
Well, thank you so much for your insights on human design and helping parents raise their kids following their strategy and authorities. And it's amazing to see how much this does relate back when you're a parent my age, 61, and looking back at when you raised your kids, and you can see, oh my God, that makes so much sense. So just
Mhm.
imagine how valuable it would be to parents who now can take it and use it as a tool. Like I was looking for all these tools back then and they didn't exist, or they
Yeah.
weren't easily accessible for people or easily found. So
Hmm.
if this is something that you would like to do, it's good to explore your child's design. You can come in and have a human design reading with Hartwell, and he can also synergize the charts and see how you all fit together and how areas you could find challenging, areas you could do well together in. So this is something that I feel for myself is important for the evolution of consciousness in all of us. So with that, we'll say goodbye and we'll see you next Wednesday at 9 a.m. Everybody have a blessed day.
Bye, everyone.